Hello, everybody. It's Smith and Jeff Nichols here with the Tactical Fitness Report. And today we're going to talk about our continued series on recovery and some of the recovery devices and things that you can do to help speed that process. Today specifically is on compression garments or compression tools.
Yeah,
There's all types of different types of products out there that go with the science of compression, and Jeff's going to explain to us in depth of how that all works physiologically, because I don't really understand it, and two, only time I've really done much compression is when I had some like shin injury, calf injury type things, and I put the 2xU sleeves on, and that worked really well.
Yep.
But I mean, I guess if you think about it, and even before compression tights were a thing, if you had some kind of knee pain, putting that knee brace, that little ace bandage, to kind of help compress it. Weightlifters use these, all the time too on their knees, compressing the knees. So yeah, let's talk about it on a couple of things, whether it's on a recovery side and, see how it, helps out with performance.
Yeah, I'll try to be as concise as I can, because it's fairly systematic. It's fairly straightforward. It's just that there's a lot of people, a lot of brands that are using the word compression garments. And now when you're talking about using the word compression garment, there's some hard and fast rules to see if it even actually can provide such a benefit. It's just unfortunate that, because here's this. As far as I'm understanding, because I've seen the third-party testing from various different places, Nike does not make, and I like Nike stuff. Nike doesn't make one. Under Armour doesn't make one. It's really not about the brand. It's just kind of one of those things that we say compression when it really is actually just tight-fitting clothing.
Right, like yoga pants.
Exactly.
Right.
So what does compression, if we're saying the word compression, what really should we be looking at? We're looking at there has to be enough compressive pressure distally, far enough away from the heart to help the blood return, right, without the heart rate elevating. That's called venous return.
Right.
And just a tight-fitting clothing doesn't do that, because it has to be of higher compression, circular compression around the ankle. It has to be higher there than around the calf. You're like, well, wait a minute. The calf is much bigger. I always have a loose ankle on my tights, and my calf is tighter. Well, then it's not a compression garment. It should be tighter the further away. And compression garments can only work from shoulder to wrist and high hip to ankle. You can't have a compression garment around your abdomen and say it's doing
anything,
spine stability or any of that sort of, it just can't be done. Now, you can, just like KT tape or whatever it is, you can put a compression top on and go, man, my shoulders feel way better. It's called proprioception, right? It's because you have a garment that's close fitting and it's pushing on you. You are more aware of your body in space and time, right? That's why when you hit your finger, what do? We grab it. We squeeze it. That squeezing tells the body to go, hey, calm down, we're under control, okay? So when you put a compressive garment on something that hurts, your body goes, so think about it like this. You smack your elbow and it swells up. What is that swelling? The swelling is an artificial brace. So it limits mobility. Well, let's say that swelling starts coming down, but you still feel like you need stability. So you put on a neoprene sleeve. You're like, now we've got some compression. We've got some stability. Your body then can move more freely, hopefully, because locomotion is lubrication. We want to continue to move. So compression garments, it has to fit a couple things. It has to be circular knit. What does that mean? If you look at your rug and you have basically an XY axis, right? Verticals and horizontals. If it is a knit clothing like that, a cross knit clothing, it can't be compressive. Okay, it has to be made in a circular drum, actually. And the reason why is if you take a square knit and you lay it on a table, and then what they do is they die cut. Right? Hey, here's a right leg, here's a left leg, and they use a lot of pressure and they cut it instead of scissors. Well, then the stretchy compressive nature on the outside of the garment is vastly different than the inside. There's more compression. So you have very inconsistent garments. Well, if it's circular knit, it's made in a circular fashion. Then they cut it down the middle, this huge, imagine like a huge gasoline semi trailer. We're talking a huge circular sew machine. Then they cut it and then they lay it out. Now, no matter where they're at in that fabric, the compression is the same because it was made in a circular fashion.
I got it.
Nike does not make circular knits. Neither does Adidas. Neither does Under Armour. None of the big brands. New Balance. No, they do not make them. Lululemon.
Is it patented? Is that why they don't do that?
Not. It's super expensive, and there's only a few plants in the world that make them, right? And there's only 1 or 2 plants in the United States that make them. In their hosiery, right? Medical hosiery, right?
Right.
Joke stocking, TED, and they're not made for comfort. So that's the problem is you get something that works really, really well, like a Jobst or TED stocking, right? That's
for like if you have diabetic, nerve damage, all that, just you.
DVT, deep vein thrombosis, varicose veins. If you are diabetic, if you are have circulatory issues, if you have all these sort of things, that's why post surgery, right? Because of the swelling, we want to put this garment on a lot of times for ACL, MCL, so you don't get clotting. You help prevent what's called compartment syndrome from happening, like that swelling gets into the bone and really quite painful.
Yeah.
So, and then the other side, so circular knit is nearly necessary to be graduated compression. So that's the other side is graduated. Graduated has to be, right, if you were to measure the compressive nature, right, with a Salzman, which is the gold standard, there is Salzman device is what measures medical grade hosiery, right? There are only a few companies in the world that use a Salzman to test. 2 times U, Defend, CEP out of Germany uses it, and then the TED stockings. There may be some more independent ones, but those are like the 4 large companies that actually do. So they know they're getting a compression garment, okay? And then the other side is the fabric. The fabric has to be a filament. It has to be a filament that can sustain its shape after many, many washes, many, many whatever. So believe it or not, like the funny we say, oh, look at that spandex. Well, spandex is like saying Kleenex, a tissue paper, a brand. Spandex is a brand made by DuPont, which has the highest filament strength and elasticity. And there's only a few companies that use actual spandex. Why? Because it's expensive compared to the cheap stuff. So circular knit, graduated, and Vista Lycra spandex. Those are 3. And then you have to have a compression. It has to be in excess of 18 millimeters per mercury, right? But in excess of a certain value in the United States, you have to have a prescription to get a higher compressive.
Wow.
Then you start getting into occlusion, right?
Oh, okay.
And that can be a little bit dangerous. If the person is like diabetic and they're not using enough or they're using too much compression. So for, an athlete, a state of an athlete, we're not worried about occlusion. We're not worried about, well, this is 22 millimeters per mercury and this is 19. It's going to work. Okay. So we don't need to split hairs too much about that. But then again, it's like, just be very, very aware if and here's the thing is most really good compression will be pretty comfortable, but it'll only be comfortable for probably, depending on the garment, 6, 8, 10, maybe a little bit longer. And not all compression is created equal. Like a compression pant, okay, for example, is great for sleep. It's not good for travel. When you're seated, because then your feet will swell up way more.
Right.
So when you're flying, you're at altitude, whatever it is, or you have, like, let's say you go run a rock and roll half marathon, but you have an hour and a half to drive there. Well, post run, you're seated, you're getting occlusion. Well, we want to put socks on, compression socks. Your feet won't swell up. You actually that's about the only time that I've ever read that there's a real risk of clotting or like a compartment syndrome issue is after someone runs a long race, for example, and they get in a car and they drive home. It's like, man, my legs are just killing me that night.
Yeah.
Well, if you put those compression garments on, like that case, or when I fly, that's what I wear, and it's substantially better.
Oh, that's cool. So as an athlete who is training for whether it's sports or a selection program in the military, law enforcement, when's the best time to put these garments on? So at the end of the day, is there, particular recommendation from you You know, if they are already seeing swelling, maybe they've been on their feet all day and they have, you know, you know, at buds, you know, your feet swell up, you know, so much, knees swell up, you know, things like that. When's a good time to put those on?
Yeah. So a couple things. It's really, for me, I got to put them on as soon as I can. I might even out training them even now. A real compression stocking is going to be a real booger to get on and off if your legs are wet. So it's not one of those things that buds that you can just go, yeah, just wear them every day with your buds and with your. Now, I would try it early on to see how well I tolerate it, because it will help. It will. But, you know, if you're constantly changing and doing these things and getting sand in there, I don't know how they do with a lot of sand getting in those compressions, because that could be a little bit troublesome, I imagine. Now, the question is then getting like when should I wear them and how long? Well, I always like to use them as my first line of recovery after like I get rinsed off and get shower and get dry. Boom, first line. It's like my first line gear.
Right.
Compression goes on.
I like that.
And then I'm probably going to get into a Normatec or something. So my phase 2 is I'm going to get something much stronger. I'm going to get my Normatec, my pneumatic compression, and then I'll probably leave the garments on and I'll try and sleep in them. I can sleep in the pants. Now, then it comes like, well, how long will they work? If you're wearing an actual compression garment, they will work as long as you're wearing them, or they will work as long as they are comfortable. Because, you know, after a given amount of time, you're going to like the waistband and maybe like the ankle's going to start itching. Take them off. And the itching is blood. Itching is your blood trying to get back into those areas and that tingling. So maybe you have to take them off for an hour. Maybe just take them off for the night. And that's kind of, if they're uncomfortable, they're not working. Your nervous system's going to be like, get them off me. Yeah. Value is over.
Okay. That's good.
So that's kind of my advice on that. And then
what about, like, what's your second line gear, so to speak? Go to first line if it's not compression, and maybe we'll do a complete segment on your second line gear, especially if it's something more natural. Like
kind of. We didn't talk about this one off camera, but this one's going to fall right in there, and it's abbreviated and it can't get in too much to it really. But my second line gear is going to be blood occlusion. Is going to be blood occlusion training, and so the device I use, it's probably the original is Katsu. It's a Japanese company. It's good. It's fine. It's ridiculously overpriced and not very durable for the athlete. So there's a company called B Strong, the letter B - Strong.
Oh, I've seen them. Yeah.
So Dr. Jim Stray Gunderson is the PhD researcher at the U.S. Ski and Snowboard and the lead researcher for blood occlusion. He uses this a lot on these sort of things, especially for post-knee surgery, shoulder health, all those sort of things. So I use it as a recovery device as well, because it's metered and I know what the process. So the B Strong is definitely one of this falls into compression because it occludes, and we're talking blood flow to the extremities, arms and legs. And then that's kind of my second. And then my third line gear really is like, and we're saying this first, second line, because we're looking at difference of cost, right? You can get a Defend compression garment for $120 or something like that. Right, the B Strong device is going to be between $400 and $600, and then the Normatec's going to be somewhere around $1,500, and that's my third line gear, and that's what I'm going to get into. I'm fortunate that I do have one here and use it quite regularly, and that's one of those things that, again, it's with the wearable compression, wear it as long as it's comfortable. With the B Strong, there's a very strict protocol of minutes and reps and sets and pressure, and then the third one is Normatec and the recovery Normatec that I've got, as opposed to there's a surgical one as well that compression goes much higher. But I believe you have to be a medical professional to buy it, like athletic trainer, PT, PA. Sure. Well, the one you can buy retail is something that I'll typically stay in it. I'll try to just watch a whole movie in it.
Oh yeah.
And while I'm doing that, stay hydrated. And I've fallen asleep in it before. There's no risk to it because it will automatically turn off once you set the time. And for me, that's been those three things right there as far as recovery and compression have been my three go-tos.
That's cool. So real quick with the pneumatic compression, I've seen you do that I've seen you have other clients do it as well. And I know recently you had a hamstring pull. Were you able to go into that with your hamstring and help with recovery? How are you recovered from that hamstring, by the way?
Right. It's actually really good. I'm going to probably go run today a little bit. I ran twice last week at a moderate pace on a track. And see, that's the thing is like, what if we, again, let's look at the common thread of these three devices: increased blood flow without increased heart rate. That's what it is, right? It's like kinking the hose, right? And then that momentary relief, that water surges through that hose without you having to turn the hose up. Well, imagine increasing that surge consistently every heartbeat or every surge without turning the hose on and off and on and off, because that heart is still going.
Yeah.
Okay. So look at what's going on. All three of those are about increased blood flow, provided you've slept well, you've got good nutrients, good hydration. Like those are the keys, right? Sleep, eat, and lift.
Yeah.
For SEAL, sleep, eat, and lift. Once those things are in place, these compression garments give you a tremendous amount of value. So it's like, we can talk about all these values of recovery, but sleep, eat, and lift is first, right?
Right, of course.
And then now we really just sleep and eat are primary. And then now we use a compression garment, and like one you can wear. You can wear for 6 to 8 hours a day. You can lay down at night and get in this thing for 30, 40 minutes. The Be Strong is only going to take 7 to 10 minutes to do, right? So we're not actually looking at a lot of stuff. It's like you got to stop what you're doing. Now, if you're in the Romatech, you can't walk around, but that's the beauty of having a wearable compression garment. You can be very compliant. It's relatively expensive. It works, and you can take it almost anywhere.
Right.
And that's the same with the Be Strong. And you don't need weights for a Be Strong either.
Right.
You can just use your own body weight. You can use your own, just making, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the Normatech, obviously, it's very compact. Like I have a little duffel bag that everything folds up to and rolls up the Normatech, and I can take it very easily. But again, there's a cost associated that's greater.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, I tell you, I'm, like I said, I don't really use a lot of compression garments unless I find a need to use compression garments. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy these things. However, when you're training really hard and you're finding that you are pushing those boundaries of training and overtraining, right? The little things make a big difference.
Yeah, they do.
Like the big ones are eat and sleep.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the big ones, but the little ones mean a lot too. Hydration, electrolytes, all the nutrition side of it, which I would consider the big ones, the big three.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at compression garments, natural things like heat and compression bath or contrast baths, ice, cold, all of those things are great natural ways to help with, any pain management or, post muscle soreness. And of course, any non-impact cardio, to loosen blood, loosen the joints and keep the blood flowing, myofascial release, massage, all of those things kind of go into the, I guess, the big equation of you recovering. And the compression side is just another element that you can use that, wasn't there when I was doing this.
For sure.
It wasn't, we didn't even think about it. It wasn't a thought, but now.
No, it's pretty prevalent. So if you kind of look like this, why I look at like as a pie chart. Let's say 34% of that is sleep. 33% of it is eating. Let's just for simple math, right?
I like that. That's a good.
Now we got compression. Let's call it 2%. Let's go vitamins and minerals and protein and creatine post-workout. That's 4%. All we're just trying to do is get to 33.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you understand, if we get all the way to 33 with all these modalities, but sleep's at a 12,
right,
we're still at deficit. So, and that's the thing too, is with compression too. Here's the other side of compression, why compression is, it really has, it's a multi-use tool, is because we're talking about the recovery side of compression, which is incredibly valuable because it's easy. You just put it on, right? It doesn't take a lot of effort. Yeah. Now, on the same side is like, well, Will it provide a benefit during training? It most certainly will. And the reason why, here's the reason why tights won't and compression garments will, outside of the circulatory issues. Okay, so you think about your calf muscle, right? Your calf muscle, and you have your ulnar radius, or I'm sorry, your tib fib.
Yeah.
Long bones. Okay, you have a muscle, a big muscle belly that when it contracts, it travels up that long bone and down it, up and down it, like a piston. Well, when we run, if your foot is off center at all, when it strikes and rolls, the belly of that muscle tends to want to sway, right? It's called muscle oscillation, and it's a high velocity contraction that wants to turn. Now, if your gait is good, that muscle oscillation is vertical, and it's going through the force of output and then into the ground in that vertical displacement. Well, if you're wearing a real compression garment, it keeps the muscle from oscillating.
I like it.
And it forces it to go up and down. So it actually can improve your gait over great. It's like the climbing thing. It's like, if you're a world-class climber, you take all your climbing equipment and you take off this zipper and you remove this tag and you're like, I don't need this. You cut a piece of nylon off because I don't need that much on my waist. So, but after a while, you've cut off 1.6 pounds of stuff you don't need. And now I got to ascend this 25,000 foot summit. Well, over distance and time, physics tells me I've done less work. Well, if the muscles are more efficient, you do less work with the same contraction of the heart. So now we have a higher output of energy within a shorter period of time just by adding a garment that's relatively weightless.
I love it.
And now
is your venous return expedited as well?
It is, and so these trials have been done with world-class cyclists too. So they even improved their heart rate output on the world-class level.
Wow.
With a compression garment on. And then the other question is always with compression, like, well, I put these on. If you put a tight on or a compression garment on and you get hotter, it's not a compression garment. Your body will regulate temperature much better with an actual compression garment. Because why? It forces blood back, right? Forcing blood back, we resaturate the blood, the hemoglobin with O2, it cools it down, right? And especially around the ankles, right? So we get a lot of venous return. That's where our thermostat's at, all those sort of things. It actually can cool the body. Like, yeah, but so-and-so and hot is hot, man. You're 120 degrees in South Afghanistan. It's 120 degrees. Doesn't matter what you wear.
Yeah.
But if you're wearing a compression garment, a real one, you'll find your core temperature will actually stay cooler because you can regulate heat better.
Nice.
So that's where I'm putting on these Under Armour hunting. Yeah, they're supposed to be for warm. They're layering system. It's not a compression garment. Right. And it's unfortunate that it's advertised as such, but it's not.
Yeah. Huh.
So that's
there you go.
Truth about compression.
Yeah, I love it. I knew I'd learn something today. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, I was going to say, well, I knew this would come in handy someday. So, yeah.
No, I love
it. And then again, it's like the why compression is so great, I think, is because you can find it. Like the price point is fair. And it's like, I get it. Not everyone's going to buy a Normatec and a float tank and all these sort of things. But so it's like, well, I can't get value. I can't recover. Yeah, you can. Eat, sleep, do some compression, foam roll, like the stuff that we're going to go over. It's just adding up those 1s and 2%. And you're going to find some of you are like, man, I got like Forrest Gump magic legs, man. These things feel awesome. Yeah. Welcome to the world of compression. You're like, oh man, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So just some of you are like, eyes are going to go wide open and go, all these years I thought all tights were created equal. They are not.
Yeah.
They are
Good
most
point.
certainly not.
Good point. All right,
Stu.
I'm smarter today. I like it. All right. So, hey, if you guys have any questions, just post them in our YouTube channel here. Send us emails. We're looking for ideas. If you guys have questions that you need us to talk about, we'll discuss it. So
sounds good. Maybe we'll do one live here this week or something.
We'll
sit down with Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're non-related Smith.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Everybody calls me Steve anyway. I don't know why. Steve.
So, but that would be like a good one because we were talking about off camera, folks. Do one on dietetics.
Oh man.
Maybe you can just scoop up and we can do one with Steve. We'll just set up the camera and have this conversation.
Let's do it.
When he's here.
All right. We'll see you.
Cool. All right, brother. Thanks.